Croeso iawn unwaith eto I Marvel Moiders. Dom ydi enw I. I am Dom. I am here once again on my endless journey through the Marvel movies and TV shows that I have passed through my brain and eyes these last 20 odd years. Moiders is a Welsh word. It means going on and on about something so much that you cause physical, actual anguish to people all around you. And so Marvel Moiders is my attempt to dissipate that pain across all of that worldwide global internet type network thing. And now I've made my way to Spider-Man 2. Be ready. Spider-Man 2 is widely beloved as the best superhero movie of them all, quote marks, not marks like, you know, the throw off the liberation of your chains, none of that stuff. YouTube is studded with videos explaining how Spider-Man 2's combination of character development, Tobey Maguire's everyman-like ability, and some great touches from Sam Raimi elevate it to the toppermost of the poppermost, Johnny. Even the dust mites floating around here in this shaft of sun think it's the best. But something about Spider-Man 2 fails to impress me, the big cheese. I said in my first Spider-Man video that there is something dark in the heart of this nerdy Spidey. Something flat, something a bit underwhelming, something angry. And that I need something a bit stranger, something with a few more dimensions going on. I can see how angry and flat sounds a bit contradictory, but I'm really struggling to work out what it is I think the film is missing. So I'm just thrashing about in my feels, and so far haven't really got an answer, but maybe it will come to me during this very video. As with X2, the previous year, the X-Men sequel, Columbia's Pictures plan was very much for Spider-Man 2 to be the same but different. Raimi was directing again, all the stars returned, even Willem Dafoe made a brief cameo towards the end, despite the fact his character was dead. Avenge me! Tobey Maguire did suffer a back injury during the filming of the horse-riding Oscar bait Seabiscuit, and a young Jake Gyllenhaal was lined up to potentially replace him, but Tobey recovered, he was declared fit. There's a nice reference to the back problems in the film as well, and also in No Way Home. My back! Oh, my back! Danny Elfman was back to do the score. Raimi had knuckled down to work on the sequel like a month or so before Spider-Man even came out, and he turned the whole thing around in 2 years, which is pretty dang quick. So that's what was the same. What was different, events moved on, as they do, and the three friends, Peter, MJ, the crush / nearly girlfriend, and Harry Osborn, the best bud and son of his most terrible enemy. He's not son of his own most terrible enemy. That would be weird. No, he's the son of Peter's most terrible enemy. All these characters are in different places than they were at the end of the first movie. Harry has somehow failed upwards to become the head of Oscorp. And he's trying to build on his father's legacy. MJ is now a successful actress. She's plastered over Manhattan and on billboards and appearing in packed out plays. Peter is now established as Spider-Man, but he's struggling to keep his life as Peter Parker kept together. He's struggling with his studies at Columbia or Empire University, whatever it's called in the film. He's got these jobs as a freelance photographer for the Daily Bugle and as a pizza delivery guy, and those are both a struggle. And his relationships are heavily neglected.
I've been busy.
He's so busy, he's even forgotten it's his birthday at the start of the film. In Spider-Man 2, he's dealing with all these pressures and the demands of life on him as a young adult. He's not in high school anymore. He's broke, he's under pressure, and he's isolated. So, welcome to adult life. Everyone seems tired, and it seems to me they're mostly tired with trying to live up to the expectations of the father figures in their life. Peter, of course, is still wrestling with his great responsibility, but Harry is also trying to come out from under the shadow of his father, Norman Osborn, the Green Goblin, head of Oscorp that was.
This is a breakthrough beyond your father's dreams.
Thank you.
MJ is also trying to overcome her father's bad influence on her life. There's a cutscene that appears in the expanded Spider-Man 2.1, which you can get on Blu-ray and stuff. In that scene, she complains to a friend on the eve of getting married to John Jameson, Jonah J. Jameson's son, Joan Jameson's son.
Father always said, you'll never be worth anything. No man will ever want you.
So what, you're gonna spend the rest of your life trying to prove something to your father?
So that's part of her motivation. The problem is, in their efforts to meet or exceed these paternal expectations, they all make mistakes. It's Peter's guilt about Uncle Ben that's pushing him to do as much Spider-Man as possible and to neglect the Peter Parker side of his life, and that's leaving him miserable. Harry's desire to exceed his father, or his father's achievements, pushes him to take some risks with Otto's research. He puts all his money into what Otto's doing. Otto himself is maybe not the most stable character. That doesn't become obvious until a bit later in the film. And this mistake of Harry's ruins him. Has no money, no self-esteem. It basically just leaves him with his filial duty to avenge his death, which he has pinned on Spider-Man. MJ feels compelled to stop waiting for Peter, which is pretty reasonable, waiting for him to make his mind up about whether he loves her or not, which is a bit infuriating.
You're such a mystery.
And so she decides to accept John Jameson's offer of marriage. And John seems a good guy. He seems to be the only person in the film whose father is pleased with his achievements, and is still alive, which obviously helps. But John Jameson's not really the one for MJ. So MJ, Peter, Harry, they all need to work out what they actually want from life. What's driving them at the moment is putting them on a bit of a incorrect course. Because Peter says,
I can't live your dreams anymore.
and that's the realization is partly what changes things for them in the film. And we also have a different baddie this time. Alfred Molina plays Dr. Otto Octavius, a friendly neighborhood scientist who wants to use his intelligence to help mankind by building a brand new energy source, touch of the Tony Starks. His is a more altruistic vision, I think, as a scientist than Norman Osborn's, which is, war, soldiers, and his own personal glory, I think, a bit. But by the same token, Alfred Molina's performance is not such a punk rock, Iggy Pop, atomic bomb of energy. What it is, though, is it does have this tragic sense of how quickly this rational, loving man that's Otto Octavius becomes a monster. I think that tragic sense is still really powerful. I'll come on to that in a minute. How is it that Peter's life is so relentlessly harsh? He can't even get a drink or an hors d'oeuvre at a party. His Aunt May's having to move out of his childhood home because she can't afford her mortgage payments. His nagging landlord of his shit heap of a apartment takes the last $20 out of his hand because he's arrears with his rent. $20 that his Aunt May gave him for his birthday, even though she's totally broke. So, precious amount of cash. And he can't even get in the bathroom of this apartment when he needs to. He's just lost his job at Joe's Pizza because his work as Spider-Man gets in the way. He is asked by Jonah J. Jameson to take photos of a party, at which John announces that he's going to marry MJ. So these are all disasters. If anything can go wrong for Peter in this film, it will. Even a broom cupboard represents an insurmountable challenge for him. I get a bit irritated by the kind of deliberate piling on of these cruelties, to be honest. It's not very subtle, and if they're meant to engender some pity in me and have me feel sorry for him, I kind of don't. I just more feel angry at the tormentor. And he comes across a bit like the Frank Spencer of Marvel movies, which is a reference for those greying heads out there like mine. I hear that Sam Raimi is known as a director that likes to torture his actors. He's certainly a fan of screaming women, often quite nubile screaming women. On the Blu-ray commentary, one of the producers, Laura Ziskin, mentions that Sam wanted pretty girls in the film. Yeah, there seems to be plenty of evidence of that. Any crowd that rushes around together or starts screaming usually has a few pretty girls in it. But yeah, Raimi's certainly torturing Peter. Sam's earthly representative on screen is Bruce Campbell, his long time collaborator from The Evil Dead onwards. Bruce was the ring announcer when Peter started his wrestling career. In Spider-Man 2, Bruce plays an usher who refuses Peter entry to MJ's play because he hasn't arrived on time for opening curtain, which means that he can't watch the play, which means MJ gets angry with Peter for missing the show because she thinks he just can't be bothered to be organised. Bruce seems particularly cruel in this, in that he first appears to be really helpful, saying, "Oh, do you need to tie a shoelace? Oh, maybe you want to sort out your tie." And then when Peter says, "Yeah, I've come to see the play," he drops the bomb of, "Well, you can't come in." Boom, ouch. To be honest, I don't understand why Peter can't just go in during the intermission, because players have intermissions, I don't see why he just has to go and wait outside. The lad is seriously meek. There's this kind of performative cruelty, but there may be a bit more to it, certainly from Bruce Campbell's position, because the plan was that Bruce would eventually play the Sinister Six staple Mysterio in a future Raimi Spider-Man movie. Gyllenhaal, him again, did come back and play Mysterio opposite Tom Holland, but the plan was that Bruce might become, in Spider-Man 4, 5, whatever, might be Mysterio, and all these petty torments would become appetizers in retrospect, for some full-on antagonistic business. Even the usher in the theatre even talks about how keeping latecomers out
Helps maintain the illusion.
There's another Easter egg appears as well. The Lizard's one-arm alter ego, Dr. Kurt Connors, is Peter's science tutor. I never quite understand what science it is that Peter's learning. It's all science. Even Otto just talks about,
T.S. Eliot is more complicated than advanced science.
I don't think scientists actually talk like that, do they? They all say what the discipline is, advanced astrophysics or whatever. Anyway, there was... in the script as well, there were lots of people they thought they'd try, decided not to, but one of them one of the scripts included Felicia Hardy, who's also known as Black Cat. She's like a femme fatale anti-hero whom Peter gets tangled up with, romantically and otherwise, in the comics, but she's not made it to the screen yet. Black Cat remains elusive, as a Black Cat might be. The thing though, with all this torment, there may be some psychological truth in Peter's torment in this film. Some more mystically minded, shall we say, psychoanalysts would point to bad luck or mistakes as somehow resulting from repressed urges sabotaging conscious plans. Perhaps it's Peter's unconscious need to be more honest with his friends and family about his identity is producing what seems like bad luck to him. He could make more of an effort. He could just, when he doesn't get a drink, he could stop and say, "Hi, could you get me a drink, please?" He could do a bit more to stand up for himself. So maybe he's accepting this quite passively for a reason. While we're talking psychology, and I do like to talk a bit of psychology, there's an interesting shift in the problems that Peter faces in this movie compared with the first one. Masks were a big theme in the first film. Norman Osborn's house was bursting with various exotic ceremonial masks from around the world. Even before he, gassed himself up into becoming a goblin, he even talks to the goblin mask like that's where his villainous alter ego is, in the mask. But in this film, the symbolism is more about being half a person. Because villains are generally more grotesque characters in their appearance or characteristics, they usually offer the audiences the clearest example of whatever the failing or whatever symbolism it is that the story's trying to get across. And in here, Doc Ock is literally half man, half machine. What does it mean? What does it mean? Peter feels like he's being torn in two by the demands of this superhero life, interfering with the life he wants as Peter Parker. He literally can't be in two places at once, and he feels torn. Torn he feels! One key image is when Peter's getting ready to go to watch MJ's play. He looks in his wardrobe and he just has two costumes, Spiderman and a civilian suit, the two halves that he's having to choose between. And he chooses the civilian suit, but then he still has to do something Spider-Man on his way to the theatre. By contrast, when we first see Otto, he seems quite centred and quite happy in his life. His career is a success. His relationship with his wife Rosie is depicted as being really loving and fun, and they know each other really well. He's kind and easygoing with Peter. They are sitting around eating, which is like, I think, the sign of, join us, we'll look after you. He seems a well-rounded person, but there is a fault in his makeup, and that is his ego. When it seems as though his experiment to create this new power source is starting to go wrong, he insists that he can keep it going, that he can control it. And this leads to disaster because he can't. He makes a mistake. This mistake kills his wife, destroys his life's work, and most monstrously of all, fuses these 4 cybernetic mechanical arms that he's built to help him, fuses those arms into his nervous system, turning him into this literal monster. What I find interesting is that the sun is often a symbol for the ego. How the ego will move towards the light, in contrast to the kind of darker, more mysterious, more hidden motivations of the id and the unconscious side of the personality. And here, Otto's focus on the sun above all else, on maybe on this rationality, on the ego above everything else, it's that destroys his sense of self. It's like a reverse Icarus with the power in the palm of his hand. He's brought the sun onto him rather than flying too close to it. More symbolism. When he realizes what has happened and thinks to himself, I must have miscalculated, his ego kicks in, kind of represented by the arms, kicks in to tell him that that's impossible. He doesn't miscalculate. And that what he needs to do is try the experiment again. That his ego is pushing him to do it again. I can make it work. Even if that means robbing a bank, kidnapping Spider-Man and delivering him to Harry Osborn so Harry can kill him, and stealing incredibly dangerous amounts of tritium. I think it's tritium. They call it tritium, but I'm assuming that's them being Americans. It seems to be spelled with 2 T's. So I'm going to call it tritium. Stealing incredibly dangerous amounts of tritium to rebuild his machine. Being overwhelmed by his ego is what makes Otto a villain, albeit temporarily. I'm not sure what the arms represent, but with their kind of snake-like movements, perhaps they represent that older, more aggressive, reptilian side of the brain, that desire to conquer our fears rather than throw light on them and understand them. At the end of the film, MJ tells Peter that denying their love would be a mistake.
I can't survive without you.
and more relevant to this half-human thing.
It's wrong that we should only be half alive, half of ourselves.
If Peter only concentrates on the Spider-Man stuff, it doesn't work. He even loses his ability to shoot webs and to climb walls, and his super strength, and even his eyesight deteriorates again, and he has to wear glasses. When Peter then tries to reject his Spider-Man half of his persona and has this imaginary conversation with Uncle Ben in which he refuses his uncle's hand and delivers he says the name of the film kind of thing. When he says,
I'm Spider-Man. No more.
which is this classic Amazing Spider-Man number 50 storyline when Spider-Man dumps his costume in a rubbish bin in an alleyway, which is reproduced in the film. When he tries to reject the Spider-Man side of himself, that doesn't work either. He seems happy at first with all the responsibility lifted off his shoulders, and he feels able to get on with his Peter life. But then he realises that people are still suffering because he's not around to help them. Excuse me, I'm just going to have a drink. However, it isn't until Peter lets go of the guilt around the death of Uncle Ben, and he gets rid of that by confessing to Aunt May what happened that night. It's not until he can get rid of that guilt that he's then able to start making himself whole again. It's only when Peter shows Doc Ock his true face behind the mask, when he brings Spider-Man and Peter together into one person, it's only then that Otto realizes he has to stop what he's doing, and he decides that
I will not die a monster.
it's when Peter shows MJ his true face that their relationship can actually begin to work properly. The love blooms with the truth, the sunshine of the truth. Yay, happily ever after, right? Wow. For all the highfalutin therapy talk about personas becoming whole and ids and what have you, there are a couple of big, obvious needs that Peter is very clearly experiencing in this film. Money and love. Love.
If you keep something as complicated as love stored up inside, it's gonna make you sick.
Otto gets it. Maguire and Duntz had actually gone out for a while in between the two films, had a history. In the first film, it's clear that it's chasing MJ's approval that kickstarts Peter's career as Spider-Man, even if he then dumps her in the friend zone at the end after she's confessed her love for him. But in Spider-Man 2, Peter's prevarication means their relationship gets even messier. MJ continually tells him that this is horrible for her. She says, I was afraid to trust you. She says, don't disappoint me, when he says he'll come and watch her perform because she has that fear that he's not going to turn up. She tells him at one stage,
And I can't keep thinking about you. It's too painful.
when Peter's trying to get his normal life back, he tells MJ he wants her, but then when he's reintegrating Spider-Man again, he rejects her love when she's about to tell him. It's amazing that she sticks with him because he's infuriating. She doesn't really believe him. She asks for a kiss to prove that he doesn't love her, having previously kissed. John Jameson thought, yeah, he's no Spider-Man, even making him kind of be upside down. No, it doesn't work for me, she thinks. So she's asking for a kiss from Peter, although Otto Doc Ock blocks it. When Peter reveals who he really is, he tells her on a web that he has spun for the occasion, just to kind of emphasize the fact that, yes, I am Spider-Man. He tells her that he will always be Spider-Man, mirroring the scene at the end of the first film when he says he will always be her friend. But he's saying,
You and I can never be.
this new Peter Spider-Man and MJ, it's a total mess. But MJ doesn't settle for that. In the end, she winds up jilting John Jameson and running graduate style in her wedding dress to Peter. By the way, who the fuck dresses their bridesmaids in black and tells him that she wants to be with him anyway? It's her decision.
I've always been standing in your doorway.
Which is a kind of strange thing to say. And also that she feels like she can save his life by being there for him. But When they've had a kiss, finally, without a mask on at least, Peter hears some police sirens. She says,
Go get him, Tiger.
Peter's like, yes, I've got MJ. The spider skills are working. I can go and do this. Everything's great. He flies out. Woohoo! Waha! Big euphoric ending, swinging through the streets. He's got the girl. He's got his powers. The very last shot of the film is her kind of leaning, tired looking against the door frame, looking worried. This is not sorted. There's still complications. It's an interesting down note at the end of this second act of the trilogy. I like it. Money, being the other big issue for Peter, is less complicated. He can't pay the rent on this depressing bedsit that he lives in. He can't give his Aunt May any money to save his child at home either. In the comics, he gives her loads of money and he covers her rent for years from selling a few pictures of Spider-Man. That's not the economy of the 2000s that this film's set in. This kind of isn't resolved. There's no happy ending like there is for Love. Just the money question just kind of fades out from the story. Like it's not really committed to that as a problem. It's something I find interesting to think about. But yeah, Spider-Man stops worrying about money despite the fact that he doesn't have any more. How's he going to keep himself alive? Costume repairs can't be cheap, and all the calories he must exert, all the fighting and swinging around. He must probably have quite expensive food bills. Maybe that'll come back in the third movie. I mean, he's got to be raking it in by then, right? You may have noticed this, friends, but I enjoy latching onto the occasional detail and seeing if it represents a hint of something else going on in the film. This one, though, is a particularly nerdy detail. I'm not a maths guy, but still I feel drawn to it. When Peter is, let's say, seducing Dr. Octavius in his science bro mode, is that a Latvian name, Octavius? It's not Latvian. I don't know. Anyway, he's blinding Dr. Octavius with science. And Octavius is talking about, did Mozart sleep before he did this? Did Marconi sleep before he invented the radio wave? Peter jumps in with,
Did Bernoulli sleep before he found the curves of quickest descent?
which is pretty cute. It works.
Oh, Rosie, I love this boy.
But I think it also serves another purpose. The curve of fastest descent. I like how the line of this curve both foreshadows how quickly things are going to go badly wrong for Otto, but also looks like a kind of a web swinging across. And that upward swing at the end works as a metaphor for how things will improve for Peter and kind of for Otto. By the end of the film, it swings over to point B. Nice. There's another image though as well, like in Hamlet, which also deals with a young man struggling to honour his dead father figure. There is a play within a play. We see MJ in a couple of scenes of Oscar Wilde's The Importance of Being Earnest. And the importance of being earnest is the message of the whole film. Integrate, understand yourself. It's your hero's duty. MJ plays Cecily, who tells off Algernon for
Been leading a double life, pretending to be wicked and being really good all the time. That would be hypocrisy.
and deceiving his loved ones. In Importance of Being Earnest, Algernon eventually reconciles these two kind of competing persona that he has, and everyone lives happily ever after. And I think this message is more central to the film than Aunt May's words about how we all have heroes inside of us, because it tells you more about how to actually become a hero. Peter can only hear what New Yorkers and the kids are saying about them needing a Spider-Man once he's properly processed the guilt that was previously pushing him on to do all these Spider-Man things to make up for the death of his Uncle Ben. So the Bernoulli curve of fastest descent, putting this mousetrap like play within a play in the middle of Spider-Man and reinforcing those themes, that really does underline the quality and the detail of Spider-Man 2. So why am I not keen? I'm not keen because I don't really buy it. I don't really buy it because I don't think Tobey is selling me anything with much conviction. The idea is that Spider-Man does what he does. He's a hero despite his low status in society as a working class kid because he has a big heart. He's got a big brain too, which is easy to overlook. And obviously his spider powers. But I don't think this big heart really comes across in the film, in Tobey Maguire's depiction. He has big feelings, yes, but I don't get this love of his fellow humans at the core of it. To me, Tobey only seems to emote convincingly when he's angry. When he sees that the wall is about to fall on MJ, when the rest of the city has been saved, his angry scream feels very real. When Harry drunkenly slaps him across the face at a party because he feels Peter has chosen Spider-Man over their friendship and getting justice for his dead dad, that rage clicks on again in Tobey's eyes. That's what I find convincing. I don't get a swell of love and care from him. The city of New York loves him for all of the Daily Bugle efforts otherwise. This is demonstrated when the passengers on the train that he has saved stop him from falling off. They tenderly pass him back along the train. They give him back his mask. They promise to keep his identity secret.
It's good to have you back, Spider-Man.
The identity of New York is secretly Chicago because there's no overground trains in New York. This is Chicago cosplaying as New York, but let's keep that secret as well. So the love is there, but I don't see any of it coming from Tobey Maguire's performance. I just see frustration. I see him being a bit odd. I see him being a bit awkward. But I don't get this feeling of I'm doing this because I love it. And I think that's why it doesn't all quite pull together for me, and why I must speak the heresy that I don't think Spider-Man 2 is the best superhero movie of all of the times. Likes and dislikes. Dislikes. J. Jonah Jameson is just a dick. Apart from obviously loving his son, he doesn't really have any redeeming features. And that might only be because his son's a fucking astronaut. Maybe that's the box that needed ticking. It's interesting how J.J. Jonasson, shall we say, becomes increasingly marginalised across the films until by the time of No Way Home, he's like a crank conspiracy theorist on YouTube pushing crappy health pills. Unfortunately, this is the reverse of what's happened in the real world, where all these blatant, shameless grifters and liars and bullies are now exalted to the highest office in the United States. Yeah. This isn't strictly a dislike, but I dislike how there's no kind of follow-up to this. When the homeless guy comes in to the Daily Bugle offices with Spider-Man's costume as evidence that Spider-Man has given up, which Jonah Jameson is delighted about, Robbie seems really quite upset. Later, when Peter's in the office, Robbie says something to him like, "I heard Spider-Man was there," in a really pointed way, to which Peter's like, "What? Do you think Robbie knows? Does he know?" I think he might know. But why not, follow it up?
But if you want to get a woman to fall in love with you, feed her poetry.
Poetry.
I don't know why Peter thinks Hiawatha is a good look to go for poetry if he thinks poetry's going to win her over. It just sounds weird.
Day by
Don't
day.
start.
Likes. One of my big likes, for all my complaining about how, they make Peter such a loser. The shot where everyone is clapping MJ and John Jameson coming down the stairs. Peter, it looks on in horror, and that is framed so beautifully. I love that picture. I like the chat in the lift where Tobey gets to moan about the costume, saying it rides up in the crotch a bit. Also, I like it because that seems to be the most Spider-Man-y Spider-Man bit. The Tobey Maguire films do not have the cracking wise. They don't, and that's a big miss that they then maybe overcompensated for a bit with Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man. But this conversation, it kind of shows, yeah, it's cool. And I don't get very excited about the Spider-Man outfit, but just seeing him chatting away in the lift and his kind of face being hidden and not seeing his dopey Tobey Maguire face, I think it really elevates the whole thing. Elevator. Yeah, elevates it. The whole scene where the surgeons are trying to remove Doc Ock's tentacles is classic Raimi horror. I don't see why they had to make the surgeons kind of obnoxious. They were done in his shop. I suppose just so you wouldn't feel bad about them all getting killed. But the moment when the lead surgeon thinks he's seen something and looks up and there's nothing there, and then he looks away again, and then one of the tentacles get him, oh, I kissed the chef. I really like all the harmonic notes of the fusion machine starting like boom, boom, boom. I really like the warped expressionist set of the submerged lab. When Doc Ock comes back again to try and repeat his experiment, it shows that whole kind of his twisted sensibilities have now come about. It's that everything's become warped. Yes, like it. We've got cameos. We've got Jeff Winger getting the Community cameo first before any of the other characters were introduced by the Russo brothers. Smart. And of course we have Stan Lee repeating his role of man saving people from falling rubble in the Raimi-verse. Doesn't have a line again, God bless him. But yes, Stan is here again. I like how Peter defeats Doc Ock using intelligence rather than physical strength. He escapes him by pulling up the electric cable that Doc Ock electrocutes himself on, and then he reasons with the Doc and talks with emotional honesty about the fact that his intelligence and he wants to work for the benefit of mankind wins him round that way. Nice. But what do you think? What do you think about it? Do you think that I am a silly, silly boy for not finding Spider-Man 2 the greatest film of ever times? Do you think I might be onto something with this whole psychology thing? Have I completely misunderstood Bernoulli's curve of fastest descent? Am I talking a load of rubbish? Should I stick to T.S. Eliot? I don't understand T.S. Eliot either. Just tell me what you think, however you like. Maybe not with physical violence, but apart from that, comment, like, subscribe, any of those things. Next up, Blade Trinity. We're getting to the first of the last parts of Trinities with Blade Trinity. A troubled production with a mixed reputation. It's the introduction of Ryan Reynolds to Marvel things. He will one day, of course, be anointed Marvel Jesus, albeit anointed by Ryan Reynolds himself, so I'm not really sure that counts. And we have an actual Dracula in it, so that's a treat. Yeah. I was making this, we finally got the Spider-Man brand new day trailer. A wahoof! So in the meantime, until I return once again, keep yourselves safe, keep yourselves whole, integrate yourselves, love everybody, recognise the hero inside of yourself, not you, Heather Smalls, and I shall catch up with you further on downstream.